Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast. This is episode 244, recording on November 30th, the last day of November. We've got one damn month left. Damn. You're watching it on December 1st or later, and we've got news, we've got speculation on financials, because we don't have actual financials, but I want to speculate on them. And we've got some summations of some stories we've been talking about as they unfolded over the last few weeks here on the Free-to-Play cast. But first, let's introduce the hosts joining me, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I would love to take credit for these decorations, fine decorations behind me, but they're pretty much all doing the lady friend over here.
And they are fantastic. I love the candy canes.
And she also got donuts.
Well,
you guys want a donut?
You know, she is a keeper. She is a keeper.
They are, however, if you can read the thing, they are overproduced donuts. So.
Also on the line, not overproduced, Mr. Troy Blackburn. How are you, Newbridge?
Also, without Christmas decorations or donuts, I would take either or at this point. maybe leaning more towards the donuts. So let's
say
real.
You don't need any more donuts there, friend.
Yeah, amen.
Let's get the biggest question from the viewers out of the way first. Where's Zach Sharps? I mean, that's, the big question that we get from Zach will be on next week's show. We have to work around his school schedule a little bit right now, so Q and Zach will be on next week. Troy and Jason get the week off next week, but they're here this week, so let's get started with the news. Holy shit, that was loud. You guys couldn't hear that, but wow. Rip. Okay.
Enjoy that on YouTube.
I have no idea why that was so loud, and it makes me really nervous to hit the weekly bomb bump. I'm hoping that that was just my headset and not the video itself, but viewers, I apologize.
Make sure to give a warning before you go to that bump.
Right, we'll call it out when we're going to the weekly bomb bump, just in case. All right, so NCSoft's Q3 financials, something very near and dear to Jason's heart. He loves the financial reports. Not quite out yet. We should be getting them relatively soon here, but about a month.
Q3? Oh, you're talking about Q4.
Q3.
Q3 came out.
Oh, no, Q4.
Okay.
I apologize. Here, let me change that in the show notes. Q4. So we should be getting those in about a month and a half, 2 months or so as the new year breaks. But there's been a lot of stuff going on with Guild Wars 2 that I kind of wanted to bring in and talk about. Now, no, obviously, the sky is not falling. The game is not going to pull a fire... Oh, we can't say that anymore. The game is not going to pull a Marvel Heroes.
I'm done. I quit. I don't want to be here anymore.
See, the difference, what's the difference between Firefall and Marvel Heroes? At least we knew it was coming for Firefall. Now, so it's not going to be disappearing or anything like that, but I think it's really an interesting dynamic that's going on, because for a long time, Jason, Guild Wars 2 has been held up as arguably one of the better free-to-play models out there. Very fair, very cosmetic-oriented when it came to cash shop, and cosmetics playing a big part. So in the game, in the late game in particular, becomes Guild Wars fashion. So there was incentive to buy if you were part of that. It seemed like it had everything without being intrusive. But now I think we're starting to see a couple of years down the road that maybe that didn't work as much as we thought. It must clearly have been working because Guild Wars didn't change anything. The ArenaNet team didn't change anything. Then we had a few weeks ago the whole RNG mount system that caused a kerfluffle, and basically the statement was, sorry, not sorry. We're not going to change this as it is, but we'll be more mindful of your considerations going forward and being able to buy specific mounts. And then we had another mount drop in that had, what, the $25 price tag? Mm-hmm. And that was kind of defended by Mike O'Brien again, in a, well, almost, it smacked of a, hey, developers got to eat. But he pushed it more towards the developers got to develop, and you should be happy if people are willing to pay those $25, even if you're not, because it means we'll still be able to build this. And while I can certainly, it's one of those arguments, right, that smacks of a kernel of truth, but then maybe starts breaking down. All of this has led me to go, as an outsider to the Guild Wars experience, just a dabbler, Jason, and Troy, you two are perfect to talk about this a little more, is after seeing the Q3 financials and that the Path of Fire expansion really just maybe at best recovered back to the audience pre-Heart of Thorns. It didn't really grow the audience or return a bunch of people from a financial standpoint, at least. Is Guild Wars 2 having a bit of a rough time right now, and that's why we're kind of seeing more of an aggressive push and these flimsy defenses, Jason?
I think what it's doing is not really that much different from what it was before, because one thing people are talking about a lot of is the gliders, and it came after Heart of Thorns. There was no way to get a glider in game. Except maybe is there like a legendary glider or something if you really did something crazy, but it's not like you do an achievement, takes you 5-10 hours, whatever you rate to get a fancy new glider. It's all in the cash shop. Now, granted, those cost I think like 700 or 800 gems, something like that, as opposed to the 2,000 for the mount. But at least people were like, all right, fine, it's a reasonable amount. I can, farm up the gold to get it, whatever. So on some level, they're not doing that any different. They're just cranking out bigger numbers for it. And maybe that's what's getting people. A lot of people comparing numbers, either comparing that to what the gliders used to cost or saying, hey, the expansion costs $30. Why does a single skin now cost $25?
And that is certainly a valid argument in my book.
But yeah, I mean, getting to your point, it's like, yeah, I think they are... I basically, I don't think they're going to backtrack anything. I don't think they're going to put stuff like this in game if they think they could sell it on the cash shop. Because, yeah, they are not looking great in the financials. Again, they only had a week to, realize the sales of Path of Fire in the latest report. Next quarter, maybe they get more, but I think they're actually going to go down a little bit at least. But, yeah, I don't think they're in the mood. This holiday season, I think they're in the mood to be really generous with fans.
Troy, your take on it?
I think it's pretty obvious. I'm not trying to say that they're in trouble financially, but they're obviously under pressure to improve those numbers. And that's coming from way above any sort of game director or anything within ArenaNet. That's coming from on high. Good old NCSoft is like, hey, look.
They're they're basically independent from NCSoft. Yeah. Stop blaming NCSoft for all your problems.
No, come on, dude. They are under pressure to raise the income. It's pretty obvious. They're trying to push the envelope a little bit here. Yes, they're providing one skin in the cash shop is like they did gliders. Glider skins weren't available in the game. I don't really think mount skins should be in the game, but there's obvious pressure. The RNG loot boxes, they're obviously under pressure to push the envelope a little bit. But here's the thing, I'm okay with the one mount skin for $25. I can look at that mount skin and decide whether or not that's worth $25 to me, and I can't judge you because you think it's worth $25 to you. At least we're not getting more RNG loot boxes at the moment, because I don't think we're done with that in Guild Wars 2 either.
And I'm totally on your side for most of that argument, Troy. Most of that argument. And I've said it on this show before. If you want to put something in your cash shop, Eve's Monocle Gate, fun priced stuff like that, because that's what you think it's worth, or that's what you think your players are going to pay, I really don't have a problem with that, because to me, the market's going to determine whether or not your players are going to pay for that or not, and if they agree with you on that value. So I agree with you up until the point of, why was the expansion $30 then? If you had charged $50, $40, $60 for your expansion, I think we'd still be having this argument, because one skin, okay, I bought an expansion, even if it was $50, Jason. So you're telling me the expansion is financially the equivalent of 2 skins?
Well,
I know development-wise, and I understand it. What they're trying to do is minimum effort, maximum profit. I get it. That's basic business. We made one skin. It's all margin, baby, on something like that, where we're sinking thousands upon, tens of thousands, in some cases millions, depending on what games, into all this expansion content. And you need 2 million people to buy that $30 thing to continue to thrive, where, okay, we're going to put this out there at $25, Jason, and if we sell 2,000 of them, that's gravy. That's just great. That just helps fill the pockets. So I can see this argument from both sides. What I want to give you guys and have your take on is Mike O'Brien's take on this whole thing, because the latest $25 skin, this was his reply. And I'm going to break this up into a couple pieces here because I think, again, I hate this. It's the kernel of truth argument. There's something in here that is true, therefore see the logic and make the leap for the rest of it, and I don't go that far. What our data shows is that the higher-priced, flashy individual items can work, and lower average price per item bundles can work, but lower-priced individual items generally don't generate meaningful revenue to support the game. Now, let's stop right there, Jason, because so far, I don't have a beef with what you're saying, provided the data that I can't see does actually support that. And it seems to make logical sense to me that that would be the case, right?
Yeah, provided you're telling us the truth. But yeah, I think that would seem to be about right.
Yeah. And the whole point of these items is to support the game. Again, put a stop, thumbs up. We're with you so far, Mike. Guild Wars 2 is a content-rich online world with no monthly fee, so it's great overall value with microtransactions doing the heavy lifting of funding continued development of the game. Not going to argue with any of that stuff, Troy. I think we're all with Mike so far.
Yeah, we're good to go. Here we go again. This is another week and another PR statement that just doesn't know when to stop, isn't it?
It shouldn't also be our goal to have the lowest price microtransactions. In that case, the only logical outcome would be that we could afford to make less content than other developers, and I think that's not what any of us are looking for. And that is the point, Jason, that kind of starts to fall apart for me. Because, yeah, you should be aiming to have competitively priced microtransactions in your game compared to other similar games in the genre. To sit there and say, it's not our goal to have the lowest priced items. Okay, but they should at least be competitive across the board. If I can get really awesome skins in Warframe for $10 and in Guild Wars 2 for $25 and I'm playing both, which one am I going to probably spend the money in if I'm just looking for some cosmetic fun? I'm going to go with the cheaper one that has cooler looking skins. So there is an element of you should be competitive on the lower price scale of things. And the only logical outcome that we could afford to make less content than other developers, I don't buy that. I would have bought, Jason, if the argument would have been it would take us longer to produce the content. Not necessarily, well, if you guys don't buy these things at $25 and we don't sell them at $25, then we're just not going to be making content. I think that just takes the leap of you either buy these and the game survives, or you don't buy these at $25 and guess what? We can't make things. I just think it took that extra too far leap at the end.
I kind of take both 2 points that you brought up, one at the start and one at the end, where you said, first of all, you have to be able to, you make something that you think the customers are going to buy and you price it at what you think they're going to want. And then you said at the end, but if people are buying skins in Warframe for $10, why can't I buy them here for $10? It's sort of the same thing. It's like, this isn't what the customers are going to buy probably anymore.
Right.
So you got to adjust to it. It's not like 5 years ago when everybody loved Guild Wars 2 was willing to throw tons of cash at it. You've got a smaller customer base right now, one that's been burned a little bit recently. So you have to figure out how to adapt to that. It's not our job to keep you afloat. It's your job. So,
Troy?
I think the biggest complaint coming from within the community is that they don't have to go outside of the game to make comparisons of mount skin pricing. They can look right inside of their own game and look at things like outfits that are in the shop and the time that goes into those, and to try to control clipping as much as possible and make things look good and make it something that people want to buy. And the price point that they come in at is less than half of what these mount skins are coming in at. And it's, you can go, if you want to go look on the outside, you can go look at something like Perfect World, where these $25 Guild Wars 2 mounts look cheap compared to some of the Perfect World mounts. But also, these are just skins. Yes, it takes work to do them. We get it. I'm not saying you can just crank those out for nothing. But these are not whole new mounts like some of the Perfect World $40 mounts are. To me, the comparisons can come within the game as far as, you've sold this cosmetic stuff, this all-in-one buy it and now this is what you look like stuff for far cheaper in a medium that couldn't be that much easier. Like, it can't be like there's worlds of difference between creating a whole outfit for characters that have to move and really be flexible to on several races to creating this one mount skin for this one existing mount that you already have.
That was one thing I used to hear too, was that it's tougher for them to create outfits. They have to make one for a humanish kind of body, like human, Norn, and Sylvari, and Char have to be a different thing, and Asura have to be something else. So,
and then usually even the male and female models differ a little bit when you look at those outfits, even on the same race.
So ultimately, and I posed this question to Jason in our behind-the-scenes chat a couple of days ago, is do you think the game is in a healthy place? And I don't mean, of course, that, oh, it's going to shut down 5 months from now. Or I don't think anything like that is happening.
Not going to Marvel Heroes it.
Right. But the Q3 financials could have been better. I have a feeling, and I think we're all on board, that the Q4 financials probably were expected to be better than they're gonna roll out. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, and a lot of those Path of Fire sales bumped into the beginning of Q4, and we'll be pleasantly surprised. But it just seems to me that with all this cash shop stuff rolling, it's like the wrong time for Guild Wars to be playing this game, and this is maybe when they're forced to be playing it. Because I gotta think, Troy, that with all the loot box and RNG and microtransaction kerfluffle going on in various parts of the globe right now, they would not even be entering this conversation unless they felt like they kind of have to right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, like you said, just looking at the genre of video games as a whole, right now is a bad time to really be trying to push the envelope and experiment, because there's just already so much bad press out there that everyone's so quick to jump on anything that tries to push the envelope just a little bit. At the same time, within just the existence of the game itself, this is the perfect time to be trying that, because you've got the huge influx of players from Path of Fire. Yeah, you're not above where you were at Heart of Thorns, but you're back up from where you were in your in-between state. Yeah. So you've got all these players to try different things with and see what'll work out. So at the end of the day, I think, unfortunately, the problems with the genre as a whole are going to overwhelm anything that they could learn from having, hey, we've got a peak player base right now. Let's see what we can and can't do and what will and won't sell.
Jason, it's not all bad. I mean, this is all a lot of speculation and talking and just kind of thinking through what's going on. But they just launched the first post-expansion update in Daybreak. Season 4, the Living World stuff, Legendary Weapon, new story, Fractal, Raid Wing, and a ton of stuff. So content-wise, Guild Wars 2 players still in the thick of it as far as getting new content to go through. But perhaps for you, one really major thing changed in this update. Oh no! Tell us about it.
Oh yeah. The keys, all the keys.
Oh my
used to
God! From on high, the gloriousness.
Which they said, we just don't have anybody working on that. We can't spare any person to do any work on that. and now suddenly, magically, it got done because we yelled about it enough, I guess. So. Yeah, all that stuff goes into your wallet now. It doesn't take up tons of space in your inventory.
Yay, key management.
Stuff for something else, yeah.
You don't have to move them around to new characters going into zones for the first time. That's glorious.
I did want to point out 2 Guild Wars 2 things to you more Guild Wars 2 proficient guys than I. One, I don't know if you guys know this. I was playing it over the course of this past month quite a few times, and I just wanted to let you know there is a huge world outside of Silver Waste. I mean, huge world in Guild Wars 2 outside. It's like, I didn't know. I thought that was the whole game. Like, I boosted to 80. Man,
none of it's really important. You were where you needed to be.
No, ironically, my Revenant's still there. My Revenant is still there. I took the Mesmer out because I had the Revenant boosted, which, by the way, I guess apparently after a certain amount of time, they just destroy that character because I still had a boost, but that Revenant was gone. So I would have this. I don't know. It didn't consume my boost. It gave it back to me, but they got rid of that character. So it was there for a year. I'm sure I have no problem with what they did. So I created a Mesmer with my second boost that I got from Path of Fire and was running around with that bad boy and left Silver Waste and was like, what? Look at this map. It's huge. I'm being facetious, Guild Wars 2 players. I'm not that stupid. The second point that I wanted to bring up is that, Troy, another holiday has gone by without Jason beating the Nightmare Tower jump puzzle. So
Well, I ain't even talking smack about that. Screw that thing.
Did you beat it?
Oh.
Oh my God!
I want to clarify. I didn't fail at it.
You didn't even try.
I saw the wisdom in not attempting. I didn't want it to feel bad because I knew I was going to beat it.
No, screw that thing. Hardcore. Oh my God. And then I've watched YouTube videos of like a 5-year-old girl doing it. And I was just like from like the year before, and I was just like, you know what, this is almost make me enough to make me just want to quit the internet entirely. We're gonna live in a cabin in the woods somewhere.
You gotta love Jason's "you can't fail if you don't try" mentality.
I wish that I would have been wise as Mr. Winter to realize
what is
that
it?
was much better approach.
You can't miss any of the shots you don't take.
So I missed no shots. I did not fail at the jump puzzle this year.
All right, moving on. Speaking of the kerfluffle with microtransactions and loot boxes and things like that, a lot has happened since we came back 2 weeks ago. Obviously, last week, vacation a little bit here in the United States with Thanksgiving, so we hope any of you that celebrate had a great Thanksgiving. And if you didn't, you know, sorry. But a lot has happened on the microtransactions front, kind of starting with the whole Battlefront 2 tide of microtransactions and loot crates and stuff. And so kind of rolling off of that, let's start with some of the news first out of the legislation front, because a lot of countries seem to be jumping on the bandwagon of let's investigate if this is gambling, and if it is, let's pursue some legislation, and even if it isn't, let's pursue some legislation. Now, this is all stuff that's probably months and years still down the road, unlike China, which kind of really jumped on things, and then the companies just found loopholes to get around it. So first we've got the UK. The UK jumped in, a number of countries in Europe jumped into this one. Particularly the UK voiced their opinion, Jason, that the quote is, where a product does not meet that test to be classed as gambling but could potentially cause harm to children, parents will undoubtedly expect proper protections to be put in place by those that create, sell, and regulate those products. Basically, the UK's commission, the UK Gambling Commission, saying it's not gambling, but we can kind of see a reason for a concern here.
Yeah, and that's basically what I said in an article about a month ago when I said, you know, compared it to like MMA and how it wasn't boxing, but eventually kind of adopted regulations similar to boxing. And this is probably going to be along the same road as that. It's maybe it's not gambling from a technical standpoint, but it's going to be the laws that if our laws that come along, they're going to be regulated. They're going to be based on that. On the gambling laws, and it's probably going to be enforced maybe by gambling commissions like in the UK or maybe in Nevada or whatever is going to happen over in the US. So
Belgium, of course, one of the countries that jumped in on kind of investigating. And I saw some reporting initially that, you know, Belgium had declared that it was gambling, and those were a bit lost in translation. They hadn't, it was a quote from somebody involved in the investigation. They were still investigating whether it was gambling. They didn't class it as gambling. Not yet, but they're still looking into it. Australia jumped on board, Troy, and said, in some respects, we absolutely consider this gambling. So there's investigations going on there. And then right at home here in the United States, well, not like at home in the United States, because it's like as far removed from the lower 48 as you could possibly get. Hawaii jumping in on this. In particular, Representative Chris Lee of Hawaii's House of Representatives jumping in, had a lovely press conference where him and others that spoke there just lambasted EA. I mean, just tore into them specifically. Their quote, "These kinds of loot boxes and microtransactions are explicitly designed to prey upon and exploit human psychology in the same way casino games are so designed," something we've pointed out on this show multiple times. "This is especially true for young adults who child psychologists and other experts explain are particularly vulnerable. These exploitative mechanics and the deceptive marketing promoting them have no place in games being marketed to minors, and perhaps no place in games at all." Troy,
is this the actual guy who used the "it's a trap" line?
Oh, you can't! Don't spoil that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's my bomb. But yes. Yes,
I was just gonna make a comment about how that just kind of like went over everybody's had in the room.
It
like he
didn't.
won
That's
the
my
internet
bomb.
with that.
And there was, okay, since you brought it up, my bomb is going to be for him referring to EA selling loot boxes in a Star Wars Battlefront game as being literally, in his words, it's a trap. The best part is that not only did nobody in the room get it, he knew exactly what he was saying. There's no way you can convince me that he didn't. And the best part of that is that he didn't even break at all in the face.
Like
he
he didn't have a
smile,
moment.
nothing.
But at the same time, you could tell he knew exactly what he was saying.
Oh, he definitely knew. There was no way. They had another person get up, Jason, and everything's got to be bite-sized and for television and the best headline, the best quote and everything. And they nailed it in this press conference with, "We would not let Joe Camel sell your children cigarettes. We're not going to let Star Wars sell your children on gambling." When I heard that, I was like, oh, that is going to be on all of the headlines. So it's getting rough for these developers, Troy.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're still a long way.
Yeah.
We may feel like we've won a small battle here, but the war is far, far from over. We got a long ways to go, and a lot of time is going to pass before something really gets done about this. Because as you and Jason have both sort of pointed out, everybody who's looking into this eventually is coming back and saying, this doesn't quite fall under gambling laws, rules, regulations, definitions. So, we don't feel like right now there's a whole bunch we can do. So, I mean, in order to get anything done about this, they're either going to have to, all these countries individually or legal groups individually are going to have to redefine what gambling technically is to cover this, or create a whole new, law to cover this sort of thing that doesn't quite affect it the same way gambling does, where putting money in, you may or may not get money back. That seems to be the big stick in the mud here with getting anything done. So just keep in mind, yes, you see EA stock falling $3 billion, and game sales are nowhere near what they thought they would be, and it feels like, yes, we've got to win, but we have not won. We were just losing right before that. We were losing the loot box battle hardcore. We've scored a little victory here, but we're a long ways from winning this war.
So I think, Jason, the way Troy is putting it, we haven't won the war, but we've caused EA to back off the battlefront a little. No? No, the battlefront? Get it? No?
I was thinking that the odds that nothing would come of this are 37-20 to 1. But that was where I was going to go.
Here's the flip side of this, though. Yes, EA lost on paper $3 billion in stock value, a little over $3 billion. Analysts are kind of pissed off about it. There's other analysts that think this will be offset by some of the EA Sports Ultimate Team cash shop transactions. But at the end of the day, Jason, once again, we go back to super data, as we often do for particularly numbers-related things. And super data saying that, yep, even with all this stuff, we still expect microtransactions to continue to grow over the next 5 years.
No, admittedly, at least they're not putting it out as loot boxes or random RNG loot. But yeah, in general. Now the thing is, though, they do have it slowing down quite a bit. That was the big point that I wanted to make in the article. Is it's going to still grow, but they have let's see, what was it? $13 billion. They said that microtransactions, DLC, all that stuff totaled $13 billion in 2012. They estimated at $27 billion in 2017, so over double. But then by 2022, only $32 billion. So just a little bit more. So maybe things are slowing down just enough that people are trying. Either people are getting sick of it a little bit, or we're just kind of running up against the explosive growth and running out of new markets and new players to go after this sort of thing. So a little bit of hope there, a little bit.
Little bit. 3 billion hit. That's a. I forget what I wish I remembered the YouTuber's name. I gotta find it to give credit, because it was such a great. Battlefront 2 news. I should be able to find who it was off of that. It was such a great little quote that he said, We've hit EA, and it wasn't a fatal shot, because he was explaining that obviously the company is so big that this, isn't going to put them under or anything like that. So it wasn't a fatal shot, but it was definitely a powerful nut shot. We definitely tapped them in the balls pretty strongly. And then he referred to them as being tapped in the money sack. Which I will find it because credit where due. It was I laughed hysterically at the quote.
Yeah, because they're down $3 billion right now in stocks, but they're still up what $25 billion over last year or something. It's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's nothing to scoff at, but at the end of the day, they haven't learned their lesson yet.
So also on the flip side of this, KeyBank Capital Markets has an analyst, Evan Wingren, and he's chimed in on the EA Star Wars Battlefront stuff and kind of all of gaming here, particularly us in the free-to-play world, and blames this whole fiasco, puts it right at the doorstep of Reddit and certain purist gaming journalists and outlets who dislike microtransactions. That's right, you heard it. It's not their fault, it's your fault. He also says that gamers aren't overcharged, they're undercharged. And here comes that damn argument again, which is right on par with the games haven't been more than $60 for 20 years. Bullshit. Destiny was $100 if you even Destiny 2 was $100 if you even wanted to get what they would have been the full experience 15 years ago. $50 got you in the Destiny 2 door. He gives this quote that I want Troy, you to chime in on, and that because I know where Jason's going to go with this, so I want Troy to go first. Despite its inconvenience to the popular press narrative, if you and I'm reading this with such disdain because that's just like the
I can see it just dripping out.
No, that's just like I can feel this guy smugly and smarmy sitting in a chair saying this and probably not even believing it, but just saying it. Maybe believing it, I don't know him. Despite its inconvenience to the popular press narrative, if you like Star Wars and play video games at an average rate, you're better off skipping the movie and playing the game to get the most bang for your buck. Troy, again, making the comparison that dollars to hours gaming is the cheapest of all the entertainment venues.
And people always make that argument when I talk about something's overpriced or not the way we like it, because it's an easy comparison because the video game always wins when you try to break it out like that. Because we always milk out the video games for as long as we can. We have access to it once we bought it, sometimes depending on the game, I guess. But yeah, I'm sick and tired of that comparison. I don't think they're all that comparable. Yes, you make it sound comparable by saying entertainment dollars per hour. You know, whatever you're doing to entertain yourself. Well, if I go drink, 8 beers in 2 hours, that's going to cost more than even going to a movie. But I'm probably going to enjoy that even more than the movie. So how would that be comparable to any of those things? So I'm sick of that argument. It's invalid, I think. And it makes you try to sound right because you can look at that number and say, look, I'm right.
So Troy's take on it is your argument is invalid. Jason, go ahead.
Well, yeah, but at least if you went to the movie, you might remember that better than drinking the 8 beers.
but it's my enjoyment factor that we're talking about.
But if you don't remember the enjoyment, did you really enjoy it?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, all right. What was the question?
just your thoughts.
Maybe I've been having too much beer. I don't know. What was it again?
Just your take.
The question was, how many beers can you drink in an hour?
Dollars per hours comparison that always gets made in this type of discussion.
Yeah, it's stupid because they're comparing. Because he's also talking about TV as well. So he's like, and of course, people are cord cutting. So yeah, definitely compare it to this thing that people are giving up. Well, that's not a good thing to compare to, right?
Yeah, let's talk.
I mean, a car is far more expensive than a horse and buggy. So why don't you just get a horse and buggy? I mean,
Jason, as always, you boil it down to the most simplistic of ideas and make it easy for us laymen to understand.
Oh, I can boil.
I'm going to turn this last one over to Troy to kind of walk us through before we move on to the bombs. I do think, out of respect for the players and new information that came up, yes, we have talked about Marvel Heroes. We have joked about Marvel Heroes in the last few casts. We did find some additional things out, and between the last cast and this one, obviously the game shut down, and we didn't see that coming until the end of the year at the earliest. So, Troy, kind of walk us through the surprise shutdown and some of the things that we learned after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know. It's a weird thing because we knew the server was going to shut down before December 31st, but we only knew because of rumor and speculation that was considered fairly reliable. We were told it was going to shut down Friday. It didn't. It lasted through the weekend. So at that point, you start questioning, okay, what's going on? Of course, Gazillion said nothing. Monday afternoon, everything finally goes away, and it's just gone. And so, the former developers who did step in and say, the game is going to shut down, it's not going to last till December 31st, they were right. They were just a little off on their time frame for God knows what reason. But since they got fired the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and then we lost
with no PTO, no vacation pay, none of that stuff.
Yeah, so they got let go. They got no benefits after being furloughed apparently weeks before that. So they were already not working and not making any money, and then they were officially fired. No benefits, no pay time off, no anything acquired. So they got kind of talkative, like in the official Discord and places where they were known, and on Twitter even, and just started really talking about the mismanagement of the company, and not within just the last few months, just overall, just sort of the behind-the-scenes train wreck that this has been. And the systems designer Anthony Gallegos, I believe is his name, he went on to do an interview, and he didn't really confirm or deny any of the speculation stuff that we made last week as to the reasons Disney, repulled the contract in October, but he did confirm that that's what happened. Disney stepped in, did not renegotiate the contract, had ways to pull it. He didn't really go into a lot of detail. He did confirm something that we talked about last time we did a show, which I think was 2 weeks ago now, that the Thor was ready to go. Spider-Woman was ready to go. They were creating content as if the game was to continue up until the point in October where Disney stepped in and, for reasons that are still unconfirmed officially, decided that the contract was going to be pulled, and that's how he refers to it, as a contract instead of like an IP license or whatever.
Right.
And then come to find out, just going back to the Discord stuff, there have been, other developers who've come into Discord, and I just won't say names right now, just because we didn't discuss whether we were going to or not, but have stepped in and said, even back when Gazillion had to renegotiate the console license, we were all under the impression they had lost the console license for lack of use, and that the PC contract, where they lost the Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer, which is part of the negotiations to get the console license back. Come to find out through mismanagement, they had completely lost all the license.
Yep,
and that
including the
PC and consoles, they were operating for a few weeks without license whatsoever. The date that had been sort of the date that was given out there since the beginning was, they've got this IP through 2019, flat out said that, yes, you guys were wrong about that the whole time. And they were within 2 weeks back in May of this year of announcing that the game was shutting down because they had completely lost the IP, and just at the last moment managed to negotiate to get it back. So it's not even like, come October when all the stuff with the CEO, the rumors started circulating and stuff like that, like, things weren't great before that. All the stuff that we thought was them taking a step forward with the console was them almost losing the game even then.
Right. Just a whole fiasco, Jason. And I don't want to belabor the point. It sucks. It sucks for players. It certainly sucks for the devs who didn't have a say in a big part of this, who, from everything that I'm reading from them on the record and off the record, who very much, were willing to work on furlough because there was stuff that they wanted to see in the game, and were trying to get it pushed in the game, and operating under a good faith agreement at certain points, Troy, that things would be taken care of, and unfortunately they just weren't. To give credit where due, the quote I was talking about for the Star Wars Battlefront is by YouTuber Yongye. Yongyea, so check out some of those videos to give credit there. Jason, you have any final thoughts on Marvel Heroes before we set that funeral pyre on fire and let it go?
Just that, being a superhero game, maybe it's going to come back in a future issue. You can never count them dead.
Damn it. I quit twice in this show.
Wow. On that note, we're going to go to the weekly bomb, so a 3 count for what may or may not be a loud bump. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that was loud. Okay. Since mine's already been spoiled, dub bomb to Hawaii House of Representatives member Chris Lee. Not for the whole press conference, although that was kind of pleasant to watch too, being a gamer and being upset about some of this stuff, but for saying Battlefront 2 was a trap and saying it with no facial reaction whatsoever. I gotta believe that dude's a gamer and definitely at minimum a Star Wars fan to have gone there, or it was just incredibly fortuitous, which that's leaving a lot to chance. So dub bomb to Chris Lee for the trap quote. Go ahead, Jason.
I'm going to give a dub bomb to my evil genius in Sims 4. Just started streaming the other night. Yeah, I know, Sims 4 is like 2-3 years old, whatever. But finally got into it because it was on sale. I know, I gave EA money.
I was supposed to say, man, you're freaking giving EA money. Come
but
on.
Only $10. Only $10 for their $60 game, which should cost a lot more according to what's his name. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm gonna rule the entire city.
Speaking of that, I jumped into Warframe in this last week and been playing it like quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
I've been playing Path of Exile, actually. That's my new thing now.
Yeah, I was in Path of Exile, and I jumped to Warframe. I'm playing it on the PS4 Pro, just having some fun on a console with my brother and my wife and everything. Demina and Havoc for you older free-to-play cast viewers. And I just got the achievement for over 10 hours, so I've been sinking quite a bit of time in the last, like, 5 or 6 days. I am one of the top 20%, or the 20% of PS4 players that played for 10 hours. Kind of concerns me. 1 out of 5? 1 out of 5 stuck with it for 10 hours or more? I don't know. Troy, go ahead. Your bomb.
I'm going to give a dub bomb to the Guild Wars 2 Living Story Season 4. It's been a lot of fun so far, except for this one area in the map. I think it's called Champions Dawn, where you look at this big monolith mountain in the middle, and it just tanks my frame rate to like less than 15. I don't know what's up with that. Please fix that. But I want to give an A-bomb to Hi-Rez and Paladins for once again trying to completely revamp a card system in a way that nobody asked for and does not look good going in. And never coming out of beta, even though you've got an official Season 1 competitive World Championship coming up in January.
Yeah, I think when you start holding cash tournaments, you're not allowed to be under the beta label anymore.
And you're trying to completely reinvent your game for right after that's over. Well, like, it's not even going to be the same game people watch. Like, gameplay-wise, yes, but the back end of it, no. They're trying to completely change it again.
Penlion says, "Debomb to Grand Fantasia, which just launched a new server with slightly different rules for an 8-year-old game that seemed all but dead a few years ago. It's showing some new life. 1,200 players the first day, not bad for a game most people are unaware of. Game still gets updates and is set to get a new class." So, wow, a dub-bomb for Grand Fantasia, a name I haven't heard in a while. Go ahead, Jason.
Corinthians, which sounds like a book of the Bible, Paul's letter to the Corinthians.
I'm pretty sure that's Corinthians, but...
Well, but it sounds close enough, but whatever. He says, "I want to give a dub-bomb to Swordsman Online." Wow.
Wow.
I also, first of all, just the clarification here, the game is called Swordsman. There's actually no online there, which is even stupider. But anyway, the Book of Corinthians says, "I want to give a dub-bomb to Swordsman Online. Adding a character in class that is super funny, jumping around the map like bam, bam, bam with their hammer, playing whack-a-mole. But an A-bomb to Swordsman for making it an only girl class. It would have been sick having a little guy calling him Mini Thor."
Go ahead, Troy. Two dub bombs for games we haven't heard of in a while.
Derpfastor, dub bomb to Warframe and Digital Extremes. They have just been doing everything right, whilst the rest of the gaming world is going to shit. Just everything that I want in a game is there. Guns, space magic, swords, and a lot of blood.
Oh, see, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that, because that's what we said about Guild Wars 2 just a couple years ago.
Yeah, they're doing everything right. Just don't talk to them about Amazing Eternals.
Right. Yeah, true. Anime Ninja 201 says, "My condolences to all of the Marvel Heroes players. It's truly difficult to move from an MMO that feels like home, even though it's going to shut down. Your memories and experiences live on in your hearts." So some love there. That was
Well
sweet.
said.
Go ahead, Jason.
Amy Bradshaw, who I think Paul did not write a letter to.
Jeez.
Amy Bradshaw says, "Regarding Ascent Infinite Realms, according to the air teaser fact, classes will not be gender locked."
Yep.
Oh, okay. And right there, she quotes it. "Are the classes gender locked? Blue Hole is planning to add genders to each class." Okay.
Yeah, we learned that right after, well, I did at least, right after the cast, when I was flipping through some air stuff, is that although the site only let you click on the classes and showed a male or a female specific to a class, that was not due to gender locking like we assumed. It was due to the game only being about 60% finished. And
Isn't one of the classes called like a sorceress?
So,
Like that's what really got me thinking.
So I'd be a sorceress.
Then you just make it a mill. It's called a sorcerer.
I'd be an awesome sorceress. Go ahead, Troy.
Sugapex, just a huge dub bomb to everyone who's been making noise about EA fuck boxes. Keep fighting the good fight. You need to keep fighting.
You know what, Jason? Keep fighting the good fight was the last thing that a certain high-profile magazine writer said to me when I had the audacity to say, I think you missed the story here. That was the keep fighting the good fight was the last thing he said. What's funny is that 2 days later, every competitor to his magazine had the actual story and has been running with it every day since then with the updates. So I was right. You missed the story. But I'll keep fighting the good fight. Hydrex Sky Shadow, da-bomb to Guild Wars 2 story mode. It's one of the best things in the game. I loved every single moment, but it's a little ridiculous because you're painted as this unstoppable force that will achieve everything. Killed 2 dragons and a god. I'm the best, I guess. But then in PvP, why does every mesmer shit on me? And why does every healer decimate me? My hero is kind of a pansy. Some random dress-wearing stranger that throws water in my face is way too strong for me to even attempt to face.
Well, here's the reason. It's because all those other people also killed 2 dragons and a god.
And now you all have key storage. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's what's important.
Finish it up, Jason.
Clay Raw says, it's cute you think the sexual thing is what's stopping Gazillion. I'm sure this was in the works for a while. Disney is very protective of its IP. I'm sure this is going down since Disney bought Marvel.
I don't think we expressed that the sexual thing was the what was stopping them. I think we expressed that it was like the straw that broke the camel's back, that there was already IP and contract issues and management issues, and this was just too much. But to be fair, Clay, as it turns out, from at least what we're hearing, you're absolutely right. It sounds like the sexual thing didn't even enter into it at all by the time it was all said and done. Last week's question of the week, what's your favorite MMO class? Tell us about it. A letter from the Carothians, according to Jason. For the question of the week, I have to say I do like Swordman Online. Shaolin class with the cudgel, a.k.a. staff, throwing it like a boomerang, catching people in it, making it where they could not move. It's pretty cool. Being able to teleport to someone's face and punch them and then jump in the air and hit them upside the head with the cudgel was super fun. I still wish games would make different classes, though, like Swordsman did. I mean, people could make Vikings, gladiators. I mean, it goes on and on with great ideals you can do instead of just warrior, mage, thief, blah, 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 blah. I mean, trust me, try it, and a game would be a lot better off. You and the game would be a lot better off. I'm just saying. I don't think it's just not my type of game. It just isn't. I've tried it. I'm glad you like it, though. I'm glad you like it. Go ahead, Jason.
So I just looked it up, and it's a perfect world game, and I'm immediately closing the browser back.
Oh, stop it. Go ahead, Jason.
Derpfester says, and to answer the question, my favorite MMO class would have to be the Spellslinger from WildStar. Combo of a rogue and a mage that's just plain fun how you can dish out damage while healing at the same time, while still looking cool wielding a pair of guns.
Gotta love dual wield. Go ahead, Troy.
Ahmed Burbash, my favorite class is Rift's Blade Dancer Rogue for being the most mobile, fun, and difficult rogue variation out there. Managing 23 hotkeys while moving was satisfyingly difficult enough for me to develop hatred towards high-performing, low-effort classes. That's what I mained way back in the day in Rift 2.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Polo Bornfly says, question of the week, my favorite class would have to be the ninja in Black Desert Online. I like that we're getting, like, all kinds of games on this one. It may not be the most popular class to play, but it's a class that takes a lot of skill, and it's so satisfying when you pull off a combo with him that he just melts these annoying Dark Knights. P.S. Dark Knight is the second class I play, so I'm like Troy, a hypocrite, referring to his hate towards the people looking forward to Bless, but want us to be nice to people that flame Marvel Heroes fans. Love you guys. Keep up the great show. So thank you for the compliment.
Do I hate the people? I thought I just hated the game. I'm sorry that you feel that way. I don't like the game. I didn't realize that I.
Well, you have been known on occasion to yell to the viewers that stop it, stop it,
let it die, let it die. That's not hate. That's just
tough love.
Let it die. Tough love. Let it die.
Go ahead, Jason.
Boop Sensei says, my favorite MMO class has to be current WoW's Fury Warrior. Nothing is more ridiculous than being able to wield what's supposed to be a two-handed weapon, but in both hands, and spinning around like a ballerina with them. as everything around me dies. It's glorious.
And finish it off, Troy.
Daniel Oppenlander, question of the week. I'm mostly into all about death, like Death Knights and WoW. I'm all about death in my games. I want to be as close to the bad guys as I can.
He's so edgy.
I'm sure being all about death might not be something you ever want to actually type anywhere again.
Yeah.
But point taken. Question of the week this week. Do you think random loot boxes have a place in gaming as a whole? I'm talking about random loot boxes. If so, what role should they be used in? Let's face it, guys, this isn't going to go away, right? The companies are going to find a way to monetize this type of thing, and random obviously works better because instead of buying one, Jason may buy 10 to get that thing he wants. So
Jason won't, because he's not stupid.
Right. Right. So, but do you think they have a place in gaming as a whole, random loot boxes? And if so, how should they be used? What is the most money-making but not intrusive pain-in-the-ass gambling? How would you do it? How would you put them in if you were developing a game? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure while you're there to put your weekly bombs, dub bomb for something good, a bomb for something bad, or if you've got a question for the panel, next week's show will be myself, Zach, and Q, so feel free to throw a question down there. Until next week, Troy, where can everybody find you?
Twitch.tv/noobfridge. Apparently, I've taken it upon myself to play every Blizzard game ever recently, but we're still playing Guild Wars 2 as well.
There you go. If I was a Guild Wars 2 fan, I wouldn't want you playing it right now. Every game you tend to touch closes.
You shut your mouth.
Jason, where can everybody find you?
Find me on Twitter at Winter Informal, streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter with my evil genius.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally on Twitter at magicman1. The description is there below. But while you're there, more importantly, follow at MMOBomb so you can get all the tweets for news, interviews, giveaways, first looks, free-to-play cast, free-to-play weekly, and so much more. Until next week, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.